In this world of technology, things are ever changing, rearranging. You need someone to help you out. I know someone who can. Come and take a journey with me as we go through the land of technology. You'll never be alone. You'll be with Paul Amadeus Lane in the Tech Zone.
Welcome back to the Tech Zone. Paul Amadeus Lane here on ABC News Radio KMET. So happy that you decided to check out the show. Got to say what's up to our listeners and viewers on live stream, YouTube, iHeartRadio, iTunes, Stitcher, Spreaker. Did I miss anyone out there? If I did, I am so sorry. I'm getting kind of long in the tooth, so my memory is not that good. But thank you. When you hear the words wearable technology, think about that for a second. What comes to your mind? Well, maybe a smartphone, right? A smartphone, come on, Paul. A smart watch that you could use with a smartphone. So you think of things like that. But what about a VR glove? Do you think of that being a wearable technology? Well, my next guest is going to talk about what their company is doing when it comes to a VR glove, which is a wearable technology. And check out just some of the applications that ones will be able to use this glove. And I'm so happy to be joined right now by Sri Peruvimba, joining me from Bebop. We're going to talk about VR and sensors. He's the VP of Strategy at Bebop Sensors. So what's going on, Sri? How are you, my friend?
I'm happy. I'm glad to speak to you about this.
I'm glad to speak to you too, because I'm a gamer. I love VR. Yeah. And what you guys are doing over at Bebop is truly amazing. My good friend Karen Thomas, she works over with you guys, and she has always sent me things about your company. And when I saw this, I was like, yeah, we have to get them on and talk about it. So, Sri, let's tell everybody about this amazing VR glove that you guys created.
Sure. So in a VR environment today, you've got very good visual through some incredible displays. Usually they're high-resolution displays, they're fast-moving, so on and so forth. And then you have, we've always had pretty good audio as well. But it's still virtual because you don't touch anything in that VR environment. We are now changing that. We now have gloves that you wear. They're basically wireless gloves, and they're very light. They're open palm type gloves, one size fits all. It's battery operated. It is very fast acting gloves, so there's no lag between the visual and the touch. And so in the VR environment, you'll start touching stuff and you'll actually feel something, because we have haptic actuators at the fingertips and in the palm and so on. And that gives you a much better VR environment. Our saying is, hey, we are removing the virtual from VR.
I love it, Sri, because we can get that full immerse experience with the sensors. And what made you guys want to tackle this and put all these different features in this? Was it something that you heard from consumers, or just been following the trend and say, hey, we have to do this because we can be a cut above?
Yeah. So the company started with Keith McMillan, the CEO, founder of the company, who's a musician. He was trying to make musical instruments that are light, so he can easily carry them on airplanes and so on. And such a thing did not exist. So he created electronic musical instruments with sensors in them, and and they've been shipped in millions of units. And these sensors found a home in other applications, including this particular one that we're talking about with VR. And as we started deploying sensors in a number of applications, medical, industrial, automotive, and so on, we found that in the VR application, in particular training applications, it made a lot of sense. So today we have lots of environment where you don't want to train on the actual stuff. Medical is a good example. There are many machinery and so on and so forth, which are very expensive, and products that are very expensive or very intricate. You don't want to train somebody on the actual stuff because it's expensive, it's risky, and so on and so forth. But you train them on a virtual reality environment. But in this particular case, without the touch aspect of it, the training is no longer as effective. And so we had customers approach us and we said, oh, this makes sense. And so we decided instead of just shipping sensors, ours are fabric sensors that can measure, force, bend, twist, so on and so forth. We decided to create these gloves because these gloves are somewhat of a universal type application that can be deployed in a number of different things, and that's what we've seen.
And you know what, Sri, that really drives home a very important point. Let's say that someone is learning these different skills as a doctor, as a therapist, or maybe a mechanic, and they have this virtual environment. It kind of puts me back in like Star Trek. This is really cool. And that's where we are in the technological sphere of things, where this becomes a reality. I mean, it saves money, and it can save lives. It can do a lot of things. And looking at where we're at now, Sri, how has the technology made it so this is possible? Because I know you've been in the tech field for about 30 years, so you've seen a lot of trends and everything. But talk about how technology has made that leap, so now we have things like this that we can actually use.
Yeah. So to somebody in the industry like me, if you say sensors in the past, you'd always imagine something rigid, something that's made of metal or some other hard substance, and it was bulky, it required a lot of power, and it was slow, and so on and so forth. Well, all of that has changed with newer materials, newer engineering, and so on. So what we've created are fabric-based sensors. So ours are literally made on rolls, just like, they are fabric. We coat them with our unique material that gives it these properties, where we can measure bend, twist, stretch, force, and so on. With these abilities, we are able to deploy them into a product like the gloves. We've deployed them in so many other applications as well. When you deploy them in gloves, if you look at even traditional gloves that are used in VR environment, they were always tethered, right? There was a data cable or power cable connecting you to the computer. So when you have a tethered glove, it's not the same thing. You don't feel like that. Oh, our hands are not tethered, so therefore, those gloves felt uncomfortable. We have an extremely light. It is so thin that it's basically about the thickness of fabric. And then it's very super fast in response, and that is one of the key aspects of our product. So there's no lag. And then we also embed haptic actuators at the fingertips. So not only do we sense where your fingers are, for example, if you're playing a game and you have your trigger finger, every time that finger moves, we can instantly react to it and cause those effects on the screen. But at the same time, if you're touching water versus sand versus a wall, we can give those specific haptic outputs through those actuators that you will feel something, and you'll be able to distinguish between these different feelings. And we can download those files onto these gloves, and you will feel all this. And we are creating virtually a language with this type of a product. And all of these advances in the technology, mostly materials and engineering, has been able to help us to create something fairly unique. And what is even more cool than even our product is the way our customers are deploying them. So we have a customer in the automotive segment that are deploying these with workers that are building automobiles or building other products. And so when they touch different parts, they're applying pressure. You can tell how much pressure they're applying. You can measure their productivity. You can also prevent accidents. You can make sure people don't get these, say, carpal tunnel syndrome or other kinds of ailments that are preventable, because you're now measuring and you know what is the optimum way for somebody to work in that environment versus not.
And Sri, I look at it too, being a person who lives with a disability like myself, I look at your gloves to help out with physical therapy, occupational therapy, where let's say it's hard for a person to go in and see their therapist, but at home they can do a home therapy program. And looking at the the medical aspects of this. I think it's incredible. And when I see and hear stories like this, I mean, it just really warms my heart to see, how this product right here and the launch that you guys are going to do is just really going to change the world. And how important is it to do that R&D and to get these studies done before you guys actually have the launch?
Yeah, so like with any new technology today, the customers are not expecting us just to ship them parts and say, you test it. They expect us to do a full-blown test. In fact, we've actually developed almost what looks like the end applications, not just gloves, a whole bunch of other things, where we are able to test and verify for ourselves that the product does exactly what we think, what we are saying it does, and we have data. And then we also have customers that have tested them through thousands of cycles, and the product is proven. So we do a lot of research, we do a lot of engineering. More importantly, we do a lot of testing, and all of this data together makes the customer much more comfortable. And then they can promote their product with these features because we can back that up with all this data and all of the work that we've done. And then the nicest part of technology is it's not a stop, right? We need to ship a product. So we finish all aspects of the product to a certain extent, and it goes out. And when it goes out in parallel, we are working on all other aspects of the product and see if we can improve it even further. And that's the beauty of it. For example, what we did last year versus this year, these gloves now have a longer life on a single battery charge. There are many aspects of it in terms of accuracy and everything that has improved tremendously, all based on customer feedback from different applications, medical in particular. We have in training, we have in the automotive that I just mentioned, and a whole host of other applications.
And Sri, when I hear you talk about this, it just really I'm like in amazement because 15, 20 years ago, this piece of technology, probably wouldn't be able to exist, but now we have this. And talk about the wireless aspect or the Bluetooth, how it connects. Do they put it to their cell phone, their video games, or how does it actually work? What interface can a person use with it?
Yeah, so first of all, 15, 20 years ago, most of these technologies did not exist. Why 15, 20 years ago? Even 3 years ago, a lot of these technologies didn't exist. So as newer technologies emerge, particularly the wireless technology that allows us to have much better bandwidth and allows us to have a greater accuracy, more reliability, and so on, you can deploy them in applications which are a little bit more mission critical than applications which are just games, right? Games are relatively easy. If a game stops, I guess you shouldn't say that to a gamer because a gamer will be offended if the game stops. But if you're in the middle of a surgery or even training for a surgery, and when that stops, the consequences are pretty disastrous. Same way with the production floor or something like that. So from a wireless perspective, we have offer Bluetooth. One of the nice things about our product is having the wireless technology and still able to deploy a product that has like 6 milliseconds response time, which is pretty tremendous. It is much faster than anything out there and allows a much more of a realistic experience rather than something where you interact and then there's a lag, and those lag puts people off, and in some applications it's not acceptable. So we've been able to develop that, and a lot of these technologies are outside of Bebop's core. We are basically a sensor company, we are an engineering company, we're a design company, but the wireless and some of the other aspects of the product are produced by other companies, and as they keep making advances, we're just going to grab all that and keep improving our product.
I love it. So when is the actual launch when people can buy these themselves? Can they buy them now, or do we have to wait a little bit for the consumers?
It is probably a month from now when we will have a more general availability. In the meanwhile, in the last a few months, we've been shipping samples to key customers who've been working with us for 1 year or more than a year, so that they can develop their programs and so on. They didn't necessarily need either a lot of volume or a completely finished product that we were launching in the general market. They needed something specific for their specific applications. We've deployed those. We've got very good feedback. So armed with all that, when we launch, we can now say we have these customers already using, and these are the specifications we are able to meet, and this is the kind of the feedback we've gotten, and so on. But yes, in roughly about a month's time, we will have a much more general availability, and we'll make a big product announcement about the product. But in the meanwhile, we are shipping to several customers, but they are OEMs in different markets, mostly for training purposes, VR training types of applications.
I see what you guys can do with this, with object control, design, and everything. And I am like just giddy as a schoolboy right now. So Sri, how can one find out and track the progress of when this is going to be available to the masses and everything? How can they do that? A website they can go to, or what would you suggest?
Yeah. The best way is our website, www.bebopsensors.com, BEBOPSENSORS.com. That's the best way to keep in touch with us. And we will, of course, put out press releases. We will have some speaking engagements. We will do all this. And you're already in touch with my colleague, Karen, and she will definitely send information to you as well.
Sounds good. Now, before I let you go, my friend, anything else you'd like to tell the listener and the viewer out there about this Bebop sensor, this glove, anything else you'd like to articulate?
Sure. I think you alluded to this in the past or in a few moments ago. So this is just the beginning of something wonderful that's coming down the line. We've developed gloves that are enabling a number of VR type applications in initially training and those kinds of things. But with this basic platform, our customers will now be able to develop several very sophisticated and going from gaming type applications to medical type applications to industrial type applications to I can even see applications in military. We are actually working on an application with the U.S. Air Force. And these types of things will completely transform the way we use virtual reality, the way we do training, the way we do entertainment. I'll talk about a couple of markets that can instantly use this. For example, let's say you want to tour a home in the Bay Area, and you are physically not here. A realtor can, give you a visual aspect of the home, and wearing our gloves, you'll be actually able to touch the walls and, get a much better feel for that home. That's one. The other aspect is, remember we were trying to pronounce my last name. It starts with Peru, like in the country. Imagine you want to go to Machu Picchu in Peru. And imagine you're able to go to Machu Picchu in a virtual reality environment, and imagine being able to touch various aspects of that, experience the whole environment without actually damaging anything, and feeling much better about that experience, right? It's not just visual and audio, but you can actually touch and feel, which just, to me, it's magnificent.
I love it. I love it, Sri, and thank you so much for joining us and talking about this. I think this is a great piece of innovation, and the possibilities are endless, and I'm so glad you came on to tell us about it. Look forward to having you back on again, and we can chat more about this.
Of course. Thank you so much for the opportunity to talk about this product.
A huge shout out to my man, Sri, for joining me from Bebop, talking about this wearable technology, this VR glove, and just some of the things that you can do with it. So make sure you keep in touch with them. You find out how things are going with production, because I'm telling you, this right here, I mean, if you are trying to learn something, or let's say that you're teaching something, wouldn't you like to have your students have these VR gloves so they can practice on things without messing real stuff up? All right, so when we get back, we are going to talk about film editing and how this one professional is using technology to teach ones what he has learned over the years. And it is so valuable, guys. We'll be right back right after these messages.
In this world of technology, things are ever changing, rearranging. You need someone to help you out. I know someone who can. Come and take a journey with me as we go through the land of technology. You'll never be alone. You'll be with Paul Amadeus Lane in the tech zone.